Hello, everyone. I'm Rodney Veal. I am the host of Rodney Veal Inspired By, and today we've had a lot of guests on our show who have the phrase multi-hyphenate attached to their talent. But this is someone who's kind of the OG of multi hyphenates as far as talent and creativity. I've had the pleasure of getting to know David over the last couple of years, and he is a poet. He is a musician. He is a social activist. He is all the circles with all the folks that are who are doing that hyphenate OG work in our community. And I am excited that we're going to be on this podcast talking about your life's journey and like your philosophies and who and what you are, so that people get to know you better, so that they will seek you out and seek out the work that you've done and continue to do. So without further ado, the OG of multi-hyphenate artists, David Matthews. Welcome to the podcast. I'm the ultimate hype man, David. By the way. I'm the ultimate hype man. All right. So, David, I'm always about this because anyone who's in the creative arts, they have an origin story, and we had to talk about how you became this multi-hyphenate. And so it goes way back. I mean, the thing is, I did all because I do my digging. The fact that you went to Roosevelt is the same school that my father went to, my mother as well. So
okay.
Yeah, so it's like one of those moments. I will not date their age, but I think my dad came out in 1959 or 1960.
Okay, well,
I'm not 100% sure on that. You're not that old, I know, but Roosevelt was still around. So, but Roosevelt seemed to be this incubator for just the just education and learning and just basketball. Because my dad played on the team, so I know that this was the world. So talk about what was that like being in that space where no one questioned our athletic prowess, but they also probably didn't question your abilities to write and speak and engage.
Let me tell you something. Going to Roosevelt High School when I went in 1970, it had 3,000 kids. Now, I don't know about the 50s, but see, during that time, they had incorporated the 7th and 8th grade. You could go there for 7th grade, which is very similar to the way they run Stivers now, because my daughter went to Stivers, and she went to 7th and 8th grade and, through high school there. Okay. So that's what it was. So you're in a place where 3,000 kids. Now, you can imagine, we all walked to school then. So here's 3,000 kids that were going to meet from all the neighborhoods to come down 3rd Street. They probably would have a police patrol now if that many kids were coming down to the school. But we weren't causing any problems. We were going in there to get our education. So to get you to understand, for me to make the basketball team and people to know that I played basketball for Roosevelt, 3,000 kids was 900 freshmen, 300 went out for basketball.
Competition.
So if you ended up playing on the team, and I was very fortunate. I played varsity as a freshman, and very few people get to do that. So if you come in playing varsity as a freshman, everybody knows you. You expect to do well to have that position. So it's difficult. But again, to make it through 300 people to be on the team, man, that's rough.
Well, but I think my dad has always said that was a similar situation. Even when it wasn't 3,000, it was competitive. It was very competitive. This was not a joke. This was not a joke.
And here's what happened to me. I'm already known as an athlete. My dad put me a basketball rim out in my backyard when I was 5 years old. So people used to come to my house to play ball. It was a part of my life. And here I'm turning 16. It's my sophomore year. And I'm having thoughts, and they're just running through my head, and I don't know what to do with them. And I after a while, I started grabbing pencil and paper, and I started writing them down. And it still didn't make any sense to me on what was going on with me. Now, my parents were very involved with church at the time, so our minister used to come by and visit it. So one day I pulled him to the side and I said, Red, what's going on with me? Because I was beginning to think, am I going to get called? Am I going to be a minister? And he sat and talked with me, and he says, from what you're telling me, I think you're going to become one of the greatest poets of our time period. And he said, you just keep writing and keep putting these things down. So I took it a step further. 3,000 kids in the school. We got a school newspaper. And I'm not thinking about Paul Laurence Dunbar has this similarity that I have at that moment until
Okay.
later on in
Okay.
life. And what I did is I developed a column in the school newspaper that came out every week called the Message of the Week or the Thought of the Week. And yeah, I mean, really put myself out there because you know how peers are. I mean, if they don't
Oh,
like it,
they.
they was going, man, what'd you put that in there for? That was, oh man, that was junk. But I never got that. I was getting people coming up to me and saying, man, I read that. That was nice. It made me think. Uh, Keep doing that. And I kept doing it. And I kept doing it, even though I was playing ball. My poetry was always something I was just kind of putting together, kind of putting it on the side here. Didn't know
Right.
when I was going to use it or when it was going to come to light. But just like the Father gave me that talent, he also let me know when he was getting ready to use it. Because here I am, I'm a basketball player. And most people would tell you that that's what they saw me to become, a basketball player, a guy that's going to go to college.
Right.
I had 21 basketball scholarships when I graduated from high school. I chose Urbana because my parents didn't want me to go too far away. But I could have went California, Florida anyway. But because they were older, I didn't do it. I stayed close to home.
Okay.
Now, everybody's still thinking Dave's going to play college basketball. He's going to go to the pros. And that's what I'm thinking, you know,
Right. Right.
and I
Right.
believe that because there have been people before me like Rudy Benjamin who went to Roosevelt. He ended up playing for the Houston Rockets. I was good friends with Donald Smith and Philip Lunkin, who played for Philadelphia, and one played for Portland. So why do I don't think that a
It-
guy
it-
grew up on the West Side can't play pro basketball?
because you
Okay.
had examples of it, that was the whole thing. I mean, and that's the other thing that the people need to understand about Dayton. We produce the talent.
Oh, man,
I
Edwin
mean,
Moses,
so
I can keep going, man.
yeah, you know what I'm
Football
saying? It's like
players.
it's just real.
Let's
It's
talk
really
about the
real.
game right now. The New York Knicks. Who's the guy that's leading them? The guy from Dayton, Ohio,
Right.
Townsend, who
Hmm.
played at UD, who played at Trotwood. See, and he's in the national championship. So we're used to dating people producing. Okay, that's just what happens. Now,
Yeah.
what happens to
Preach.
my dream? What happens to my
Yeah.
dream? I blow
Yeah.
my knee out the end of
Okay.
my sophomore year, and technology in 1972 was not the technology of today. I
Right.
remember Kobe Bryant tearing an Achilles heel and was able to play again. Back in the day, when you tore an Achilles heel, that was it.
You were done because,
You were
and
done.
that's the advancement in technology and science. Sometimes here in Dayton, Ohio, because that's what they do. You see, what I'm David, I'm finding out that we do a lot of experimental medical procedures in Dayton, Ohio now. It's like, so folks,
So I
don't
blew
fall
the
asleep on
knee
Dayton,
out.
Ohio.
And here I learned a lesson about contracts. I blew my knee out.
Hmm.
And I found out that it's not going to heal in time for me to be able to play again before my 4 years is over. It's almost like saying my career is over because it's going to, by the time we do the surgery and you heal, you're in your senior year.
Yeah, it's
And
longer process. Yeah.
so I get called to the admissions office and they want to ask me, um, have I read my scholarship contract? And I know you've heard this. Did you
Yes.
read the small print
Mm.
at the
Okay,
bottom?
that's a lesson in and of itself to people.
You see, and I've told people, I've made that, I said, this turned out to be positive for me. But when you read contracts, we see so much in a contract. I'm not going to go through all that. And then we go through the highlights, and then it's one of them things that you missed. And in my contract, it said that I had a full scholarship ride with uh, the admission fee and books as long as I was playing on the team. For any reason, for injury, because I was sick, my grades fell down, anything that kept me from actually playing on that team, being on that roster, I no longer have that athletic scholarship.
Wow.
So, so, so I Say, what am I going to do? Well, they said, well, good thing you got a 3.3 and we're going to finish you out on an academic scholarship. So I
See,
always tell people have that B plan, have something to fall back on.
I love the fact that you talk about the thing is, and that's one of the things that I think a lot of times, especially with young people, not understanding. Read the fine print. That's
Mhm.
one, but also too, the B plan is always about education, and so knowledge. So as a former educator,
Mhm.
that's I've always preached that. I preached that when I taught at Stivers. I was like, I love your physicality. I love the fact that you can move, but
Mhm.
you also have to be smart, and you also have to be able to know how to read a contract because that's a similar because that fine print is the same thing about when you dance.
That's right.
We hired you to perform and dance in college. You can't
Uh,
do it. We remove your scholarship. That fine print never changes. It doesn't change for sports, art. It doesn't matter. If you cannot produce what they asked you to produce in a contract, you out. And so the thing is, but my question is, my curiosity during this entire time when you're playing, were you still writing poetry? Were
I
you
was
you
writing
writing
poetry.
constantly?
Writing constantly, even took poetry courses. I wanted to know, and I tell people, if you get into something, try to learn as much about it as you can. And so,
Okay.
since I'm there at the university, I'm trying to suck up all the knowledge that I
Mm.
can about writing and learning about other poets and other writers and trying to figure out where I fit in. So, what do I do again? I start a column in the school newspaper called Words. And words allowed me to express my poetry along with other people's poetry on campus. And what it did, all of us were getting feedback about our
Mm.
writings because I had produced that column and I kept that column going to the entire time that I was there.
Wow. I mean, but
So,
well, what it just says, it speaks volumes about you. It speaks volumes
mhm,
about the fact that you were. And I'm not going to use the word. I'm going to use the word, not restless because it's
mhm,
not restless.
mhm,
It's a curiosity. And also a drive to kind of constantly sort of to explore forms of expression.
mhm.
And that seems to be the multi-hyphenate OG methodology. I have a language for it. And that all of you, because it's your story is very similar to Jimmy Jones. You know Jimmy Jones, the painter
Yeah.
in Cincinnati.
Mhm,
You
mhm.
guys, all of you, I like what okay, what was up? Like was there something special in the water during that time period that all of
Um,
you all said, let me not just do the thing because he was in football and everyone thought he was going to go and be pro football and he ended up being an engineer. Then he ended up being a product designer at Procter and Gamble. I mean, so it's this thing, these expectations that we have on, especially on men of color and creativity. And like, once they put you in a box, you're in a box, but you've defied the box, so to speak.
Now, you know, they always say when one door closes, another one opens.
Yeah.
I'm pure proof of that because my dream was being a pro basketball player. But when that dream had kind of ended and I had to accept that, I was already doing the poetry and I began to feel like I was pretty good at this.
Yeah.
And just like in basketball, I told the guys, I said, if no one had picked me up, I would have went to one of the pro camps and let them still see me, whether I played on the G League or something. I would still been going for that dream.
Right.
So now
Right.
that dream is over, and here's this other one that the Father has given me. And I begin to feel like maybe I can do this. And I never forget my wife, Asani, asking me, she said, what made you write Nikki Giovanni? I
That was
said,
my next question, by the way, because I'm like, because I mean, come on, that takes
what even
kahunas.
made you
I'm just gonna
think?
say,
I said, well, I told her, I said,
how,
well, just like if I was still gonna play at pro ball, whether I got drafted or not, I need some other pros to tell me I either got it or don't have it. And I said, and she
mm.
was the hottest thing going at that time. And I'm gonna give credit back to the Father because we do nothing without him. He gave me this talent and he kind of guided me through it.
Mm,
Okay. And so she was editorial consultant of Encore magazine at that time.
okay.
And I figured and Encore magazine, big magazine. If I write a letter and send it to her in care of her, editor of Encore magazine, that she'll get it. And of course she did. Now I sent that in 1972, probably in March, and I didn't hear anything until June. And in
Wow.
June, when I hear something now, you probably remember the neighborhoods. I grew up in those neighborhoods where everybody knew everybody, and the kids stayed
Yeah, yeah,
in that
yeah.
neighborhood. So if your parents came out to holler for you, you better be hearing them because you're supposed to
Right.
be right there. You ain't supposed to be nowhere else. So my mom got to say one day, David, Nikki Giovanni's on the phone.
Oh, wow.
I mean, all my neighbors and they was like, "Did I hear what did he just say?" And my legs were weak, and I had a mixed emotions because I'm thinking, what if he just says, you need more work, you need more study, you're not
Mhm.
quite there yet,
Yeah, you're willing to tell you accept the
I'm willing
the
to accept
yeah.
you ain't there yet, brother. But I had written a poem, The Feel of Feeling, at the time, which was the title of my first book and didn't come out published until my second book, but it was a poem that I performed. And it was the poem on top. As a matter of fact, I sent her 25 handwritten poems because I couldn't type. Back in the day, I used to have other people. I was a basketball player, but I used to have other people, cheerleaders, they was typing my paper. And later on, I had to learn how to do that. But they were handwritten, but I had decent handwriting. And she told me later that she planned on reading one. She ended up reading all 25, that she usually gets a lot of mail, but she only got that one package that day. And what do you do when you got a bunch of mail? You might throw it to the side, but one package, and open, see what this is. And when
Right.
she read it, I had my address, my phone number, and everything in there, basically saying, if you got time, would you read one or two and see if I got 20, got some talent? And she read all 25. And I'm nervous, and I get to the phone, and I say, hello. And she says, David? And I said, yes. He said, that voice. And I had this voice since I was 14. He said, now,
Yeah.
if you can work that voice with your talent, because you're talented, and I know it from the first poem, To Feel the Feeling.
Right.
Now, she decided that I was so talented that she was going to mentor me and just kind of show me the ropes. But she says, I got a question for you first before I commit myself. And I said, what is that? She said, well, the number one book sold in the world is the Bible. The least sold book in the world is a poetry book. So you're
Huh.
stepping into an arena that very few people make it
Oh,
in.
wow.
What makes you think you're going to make it in this arena? And she said, what's going to make you different? I said, Nikki, when they see me, they're going to say they ain't never seen nothing like me before. I said, I'm going to take poetry to a new dimension. I said, everybody else has either been reading it like yourself, or Sonia Sanchez, or Gwendolyn Brooks, or they've been doing it with music like Gil Scott, or The Last Poets, or The Last Prophets. I said, I'm going to bring my poetry to life on stage. It's going to be called An Evening on Broadway with author, poet, musician David Matthews. And I built a production from college. I was able to travel with my production my last 2 years of college because the college knew I was working with Nikki Giovanni. They also knew that in 1973, when Nikki Giovanni and Dick Gregory came to Central State University, that she asked that I come too. She told student government who I was. They contacted me.
Wow.
I got on the program, and you know what else? She made sure I got paid. I wasn't even expecting to get paid. I was just accepting the
You
honor.
just excited that you was like, hey, she thought of me. Like,
Now,
there's a
when you
moment.
call,
I get it, which I totally
when
get.
you call me OG, you see who I'm. here's
Well, you
my
were dealing
era.
with the OG who was helping you become the OG. I mean, let's be
Hey,
very clear.
Gwendolyn, I opened up
OGs
for
don't form under rocks.
right.
OGs
I opened up
begat
for Gwendolyn
OGs.
Brooks. I opened up for Gil Scott-Heron. I opened up for Grover Washington Jr. All these are OGs. Nikki Giovanni, Dick
Yeah.
Gregory. See, and I'm a poet opening up for these people. Even when war came to Dayton, I opened up for them at Jilly's.
Wow. Wow. Which is right down the street from us here at the station.
Right down the street.
I'm Bonnie Miles, Membership Coordinator of CET. Thank you for listening to Rodney Veal's Inspired By. This podcast is a production of CET and ThinkTV, 2 local PBS stations. As PBS stations, the work we do online, on air, and in the community is supported by listeners like you. If you're enjoying the show and would like to support our work, please consider becoming a member at cetconnect.org or thinktv.org. Plus, when you sign up to donate at least $5 a month, you'll get access to special members-only streaming videos on the PBS app through Passport. Learn more at cetconnect.org or thinktv.org.
If you're enjoying this conversation, The Art Show, also hosted by Rodney Veal, is available to stream anytime from anywhere on YouTube or the PBS app.
Now, people say, now, how in the world did that happen? Would you like to hear that story?
Yeah, I want to know how you got on the stage doing poetry in front of war.
Okay, let's go back to this poem, The Feel of Feeling again. It's a very powerful piece. And at that time, War had produced an album. I'm gonna see if I can take you back. It was a silver album, and they called it Platinum Jazz. And after we got the phone, you can look it up.
Okay.
And back albums, they had 2 sides. So on the second side was a piece called I Got You. And it was a jazz instrumental piece, no words, nothing. And I began to use that as my background for the piece. And so since I was using that, Jerry Gelati and I knew each other, and he told me who was the producer, because I had played with other bands there. He says, well, Ron Patterson is producing that show. I'm going to hook you guys up. Now, this is how long ago. I gave Ron Patterson a cassette tape.
Oh, you okay. So let me see. I didn't tell some of the people in my audience a cassette tape used to be a device that you put recorded sound on, because some people don't.
Around in there somewhere.
There's some people who don't even know what a CD is. So let's just be very clear. Let's be very clear.
A VHS. I seen a commercial where a guy was looking at this VHS like, what's that? So I sent them a cassette tape. Ron Patterson gave it to Howard Scott, who was still the only original member with the group, who was the leader of the group then. Listened to it, and he was so impressed with it. He said, get in touch with this guy. I want him to do this piece to open up for us when we open up tonight. And I got to open up for them for a couple of times. And to do it for Grover, I met Grover in the French Quarters down in New Orleans while I was down there doing a performance at Tulane University, and he was performing, and we saw his bus. I knocked on the door, told him who I was. He said, come on in. I did some poetry for him, and I heard from him about a week later. He says, look, I want you to meet me down at Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I want you to open up for me. Do that poem, The Feel of Feeling. Now, some people were turned on to that, and other people were turned on to the other poem, America Ain't You Got No Shame. It's back here behind me. That one right there. That was in Right On Magazine. Now, let me give you a little history about Right On Magazine, because most people don't know about that. Right On Magazine.
But also, too, magazines is a publication that people used to buy things in a newspaper. I hate to tell you, you don't understand when you say stuff. You get to explain it to the audience. Like, magazines were a thing. And I remember Right On Magazine.
So I remember going in Wilkie's when I was.
Oh my God! You know,
Wilkie's bookstore. It was the bookstore. Okay.
Yeah, I worked there.
And well, here's some history between us. You may know this. When my book came there in 1976, the only other Black poet in Dayton who had a published book in that store was Paul Laurence Dunbar.
Yeah.
I was the first. No other one had come forward. I was like, Dayton, and
let's be very clear. That was the only bookstore in town. Let us be very clear.
I like nobody. So to get in there,
because I went there when I was a kid.
was
Yeah.
amazing. And I got
Yeah.
in there first through Right On Magazine because they
Right.
sold those. And
Yeah.
Right On Magazine was just a magazine that talked about the stars and TV and movies and entertainment. It didn't talk
Mhm.
about nobody in poetry. It didn't have no Nikki Giovanni and nobody in
Yeah.
there.
No, no, no,
But
no.
the talent in Roosevelt, once again, there's a guy that's still performing now named Derek Floyd. Derek and his sister, Sydney Floyd, won a contest in California, a national songwriting contest. And they went to Roosevelt, and they were good friends of mine. The matter of fact, they should have been the first black carpenters, and they had a contract with Gamble and Huff, but things went wrong. That's a whole nother story. But anyway,
See, that's
they
what
were
that's what you know. Yeah.
they were in Right On Magazine, and I knew them
Uh-huh.
when I went over to their house one day, and they said, "Dave, you need to talk to the editor of Right On Magazine." And they called her right up, told her who I was, handed me the phone, and said, "Do your poem, America Ain't You Got No Shame." I did that poem. Flo Jenkins fell in love with it. I became the first poet to ever be in that magazine, and it's so funny about that because way I found out I was in the magazine is I happened Floyd Weatherspoon was one of my friends. And I happened to be at his house, and his niece came in one day and she said, "There's a guy from Dayton and Right On Magazine." He said, "What's his name?" He said, "David Manty." He said, "There he is, laying on the couch." Because I used to spend the night at his house sometimes because we was in a group together, and I didn't want to go all the way back home. I just stayed there. So she was amazed that there's somebody in Dayton, Ohio that has made Right On Magazine. Well, that also helped me in Wilkie's because my contract,
Mhm.
my first book was not self-published. It was with Vantage Press. Now, a lot of people don't know who Vantage Press was. They were one of the biggest boys in the business at the time in New York. And what I liked about Vantage Press is if you were good enough, you might make the New York Times. And that's what happened to me because you got to realize I started in 73. I had already done 60 schools by 1976 in June when that book. So I already had an audience out there that knew who David
Right. You
Matthews
were already
was.
doing the circuit.
There was this magazine that it came out with this piece in it. And then I won the award the second time from the Los Angeles American Poets Society and ended up in the magazine again, this time with my picture in there. No poet had ever done that. So people are becoming aware of me by my performances. I was even asked to speak at my graduation. My book was the first book ever indoctrinated into the Urbana University Library. Now, there may be some other authors after me, but I was the very first one. So, to Wilkie's, you're with Vantage Press. I'm picking up the phone. They're talking to them. They send us promo on you. I developed other promo. I put posters and other stuff out that they didn't
Right.
even do. But this guy's big time. He's with Vantage. He's been discovered by Nikki Giovanni. They
Mhm.
knew who she was, even though her book wasn't in there
Mhm.
at that time. Okay. Her
Just be
books
very
didn't
clear on
come
that.
till we got B. Dalton bookstores. Do you remember
Right.
them? They were
I
in most of
remember
the
B.
malls, and we
Dalton's
had one
because they
downtown.
were
Now,
when they
that's where
started
she
showing
got
up
her.
in the malls. Let's see,
There we go. And I had a contract with B. Dalton bookstores as well. My books were in B. Dalton bookstores. So Wilkie's opened their arms to me because I was with Vantage Press. That book came out in June, and by the time we were approaching them, we were telling them and sending them a clipping that in August I was in the New York Times newspaper. Another thing I used to look at Wilkie's because they used to
Oh yeah.
carry them. And
Right.
my book was one of the top 10 sellers from Vantage Press. So they didn't feel like they were taking a chance on me. They felt like this guy's got some history. Sure, we'll put your books in the store.
Right. Right.
Okay, so since they did it, guess who else did it? Reich's had a book department store too. And
Mm-hmm.
not many African Americans were in there. But because
Mm-hmm.
Wilkie's took it, they took it. And because they took it, B. Dalton bookstores took it.
Wow. See, and what I love about it, David, is the fact that when you talk about places and locations and people providing the space
Mm-hmm.
for your work, it I always say, one of the things that we always talk about, on the podcast when I've talked to other artists, and I have talked to, we are now in season 4 of this podcast. Just so you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's been going. It's been going.
Okay.
Been going
Okay.
for a little minute. I'm like, whoo. But what I love is the consistency of hearing the stories when people say, you gotta take a chance on yourself. Like you can't be afraid to ask to knock on the door. And one of the things that I noticed about when I read about you, and I've talked to others about you, is that you're not afraid to knock on the door. And you
Can't
can't,
be.
like, no, you just gotta go. Come on now. I mean, there's something to be said about that. I mean, because we haven't even talked about music, which I need to. This is what multi-hyphenates do to this podcast. Like, y'all got to be parts, and it was like, because music had to have played a part in your life the entire time in life as well, especially with that voice. I can't imagine somebody didn't get you in the church choir.
I tell
I'm
people,
sorry.
I played several different instruments, just figuring out which one I was going to play. And they say, how far back can you go? And people know who Stevie Shockley is. He plays guitar for Lakeside and has been for many years. And when Stevie was growing up, Stevie and I, along with a guy named William Green, had a band together. And I was learning how to play bass guitar at the time. And I played clarinet and I played keyboard. I just couldn't find that right instrument until I got on college campus. And these Africans started playing these drums on Saturday morning in the football field. And now it seems like the drums are saying, come over here, Dave. Come on over here. And when I got over there, I just stood and I watched them and they said, do you want to learn how to play? And I said, yes. So they gave me a cowbell. I said, I want to know how to play the drums. He said, well, you have to learn how to keep beat on the cowbell first before I can even let you touch my drum. I said, okay. So I met out there every Saturday and learned how to play those drums and learned. Now I play 19 different Latin percussion and African instruments, but it started with them Africans on campus and hearing them drums and having them drums just kind of bring me to it. And then I incorporated it in my performance. Now, I told you my performance was an evening on Broadway. It was costumes, backdrops, light effects, sound
You did
effects.
the whole, you made a one-man show.
Everybody knows me here. I came to the convention center in 1980 and packed the place. What else happened in 1980? My second book came out, Time Brings About a Change, which I ended up reading. When I first wrote that poem, I woke up my friend Bing Davis at 3 o'clock in the morning and read it to him. and I really didn't realize what time it was.
The other OG. the other OG.
And I didn't know 6 months later he was going to invite me to his house and show me a painting that he had dedicated to me and Paul Laurence Dunbar.
Wow.
Sitting over here. But it's a painting dedicated to, I don't know if we can move this to them to see it. Let me see if we can get it in the picture. There it comes. Can you see it?
I can see it. Yes.
Okay.
The thing is, I'm familiar with that piece because we used it in the documentary.
Right.
That photograph's in the documentary.
Right.
I know that for a fact.
Now that painting, that painting is done because of Paul Laurence Dunbar's poem, We Wear the Mask. And I tell people to understand why he did the painting, please go back and read the poem, We Wear the Mask.
Right.
Because we all do. We hide behind something trying to portray who we think people want us to be, And my poem, Time Brings About a Change. It either does with you. And on my book, the hand is set at midnight, but it's 5 seconds after, because that minute hand lets you know there's the dawning of a new day. And what I've tried to do is bring forth a message in my poetry. And what I love feeling is somebody saying, hey, poet. Because you notice I spell my name in small letters. And I don't do that because of E. Cummings, and that's where most people relate the small letters, the lowercase coming from. I told people, I don't care if you remember my name, you need to remember my message. And they said, well, what is your message? I said, my message is for you to understand that the most important word in the world is to sponge. Sponge because it means absorb, it means take in, it means soak up. And that's what all of us should be doing 24 hours a day, just soaking up knowledge. Because knowledge is what's going to save you. What you don't know, it will hurt you somewhere down the line. That's the reason I say when a person wants to get in my business or anybody else's type
Yeah.
of creativity, learn as much about
And
it, the contracts, the art of it,
all of it.
everything, because this you don't need nothing to hit you in the face that you did not know. Because all of this is a part of you. So when a person stops me and says, poet, I'm still sponging. See, I don't care if you didn't remember my name, but see, if you tell me you're still sponging, I know that you got my message and you're
Uh,
still using that message in
yeah.
your life. When someone says, my mama brought me to see you, that lets me know I'm definitely an OG. At the
I was
convention
like,
center,
well,
that
now
your
this is
mama brought you,
your mama
you know.
brought you. It's like, yeah.
Right.
What?
The one I've gotten many comments. One of the best was performing at Mississippi Valley State in Enid, Mississippi. And if you don't know anything about it, that's where Jerry Rice came from, the football player, San
Mm-hmm.
Francisco. He went to
Right.
that school, so it's HBU. And a guy came to a show and he brought his mom. And he said, I didn't even really want to come to no poetry show. He
Right.
said, but couldn't turn mama down. She didn't have a ride. I brought her. And I'm gonna have to admit to her that I'm so glad I came. I learned so much. I didn't think a poet could entertain me because I had people say, what are you going to do, Dave? You're going to stand at the podium, you're going to read? No, I read only one or two. I'm performing most of them, and each one of them has their own individuality. My daughter has been performing with me on stage. I've been on stage for 50 plus years, but she's been on stage with me. She's 35 years old now. Over 20 years. She came on stage with me when she was 10 years old. She used to listen to
Mm.
us rehearse on the basement steps. And by the time we brought her on stage, she basically said, I already know my parts. I know what I'm supposed to do. And then she ended up taking theater at Stivers and then advanced
Mm.
there. But here's something else. As a father-daughter performing team, we are the only ones still in existence and have that longevity. Now, the difference is there are other father-daughter teams. Ron Howard and his daughter, she's an actress, he's active, but he may produce something that she's in. We're the only two that are on stage together performing my work. Now, my production only performed my work. I didn't need any other poets with me to perform what I'm doing. I just need you to perform what I'm doing. So I had musicians that sometimes put down their instruments and became actors on stage. They were like hecklers in the crowd, having responses to my poetry of what I'm saying, which
Creating.
made the crowd get into it, even more.
The thing, that you are just the sponge part got me because it's true. It's legit.
Well, you have a method to your madness now.
You gotta have I love the use of the word sponge, and I think what I love is the fact that you've brought your family in. Your wife's a writer. This is a full on. Talk to me, like, because I want people to understand. Like, and this is for the audience.
Okay.
Talk about what it takes to live this life creatively beyond just the sponge, because I think a lot of people don't understand, like, because they'll immediately stop themselves. Something will come up like, oh, I can't support myself being a poet. I can't support myself being this. I can't, like, these things where they stop themselves. And I'm kind of curious, like,
well, you know what? That's the whole
where does the
reason I
fearlessness
created.
come from? I'm
That's
just
the reason
saying.
I created the production. I knew that I couldn't make the kind of money Gil Scott and Nikki Giovanni was making. I'm just new out there. But I got a production that's different. I got a
Mm.
bunch of people and musicians and props and carpet for the floor and everything else. It was like, you're a poet? Because I'm doing something that no one else, and now you got to pay me. You have to pay a production, right?
Okay.
You got to pay a production. So there's a difference with that, the way I even presented myself. Now let's get back to, you got to believe in yourself. First, you got to have knowledge. So like I said, study everything that you need to know about what you're doing. You can't be laxing or nothing,
Yeah, yeah.
I had to
24/7.
teach my manager how to manage me. She had never managed a poet. Who manages a poet? But you manage me very similar to how you would manage a musician or any type of production, That's how you manage me, you know.
Right. And that's,
So the other
let's be very
message,
clear, but let's be very clear with folks. Like that managing is an
Mhm.
art form in and of itself to manage an artist. So I'm like, no. Everybody has to be on the same level
and,
of
and
of the thing
of the
to make
thing.
the thing
And I
happen.
started managing bands coming to my school when I was at Urbana because I came from Dayton, Ohio, where there's tons of band. I brought Roger, the Ohio players, and everything else we had to come to my school because I found out they had student activities monies to do that kind of stuff. So I learned from someone who did that was there. And then
Wow.
all they taught me was, with your thing, you're just booking yourself as a poet compared to booking a band. But it's the same thing. I had to go to a lawyer, have him design my contract. But I'm motivated through the Father. And I tell people all the time that he is with us all the time. His rod and his staff guide us all the time, not just certain times during the weekend when he feels like it. You know, we don't have to go to a place of worship to talk to him. He's right here. My
Mm.
dad said, "Why are you talking all loud?" He's not hard to hear. You can whisper. You ain't even got to say it. You can think it. That's just how close he is to you. And the sooner you realize that, then the better off you're going to become and the better you're going to be able to get through life. I had excellent upbringing. I came up with that time where the whole neighborhood raised you. If you did something, Miss Jones liable to tell on you. Oh, it seemed like you got told on a lot. He pointed at
I
himself.
never got. See, I was never bad. I was never bad. My brother
I
was
never
a
was
little bit
too.
rough.
I told my wife
I,
that.
but everybody had a hand in it
Uh-huh.
because we all had. It was the street light rule. I'm sorry.
Thank you, bro. I told my
I'm sorry.
daughter about the street.
You better.
How to get
The street
everybody to
light rule
get
was
on that
real.
level. Did the parents have a meeting? I said, we didn't think about it. We never questioned them. I never asked nobody, since everybody had to do it, you just said, okay, man, because if I was over somewhere and those lights came on, I knew that how they came on in rotation. So let me haul home before
Right. Let me
they
be on
coming
the
on.
journey. Like they need to see that you were making the motion towards the
Yeah,
house.
because my parents were
They knew.
standing on the porch. So, so one
Oh,
night he could
oh, oh.
sneak in the back door and say, I was here. No, because you know you're supposed to come through the front and I need to see you.
Wow. See,
Now, I wasn't as bad as one of my wife's friends. She said she had that same room when she grew up, but she was on the porch when the lights came on, and she still got a whooping because her mama said she don't live on the porch. She live in the house. See, now mine wasn't that strict. As long as I was on that porch, I was cool.
right. And I benefited from being the baby, so it was kind of like I got
Oh,
a
I
little bit of slack,
did not.
but I never pushed it. I never pushed it because I saw what
Okay.
happened. Because my brother would push it. I was like, well, you know what? If he's gonna break the rules, let me and that's the repercussions. I don't want that. So let me just get my butt.
Right. I see we running. We've got about 9 minutes, it looks like.
Yes,
So
and
well,
I love this conversation, and I know we got a little moment. I want you to. Because what I love is the fact that you've rooted your work in a positive message and language, and I think you need to and it's appropriately titled The Message. I want you to recite a piece of your work. Yeah.
um I was hoping we could do the video, but since we can't do the video, I just want to talk about the video a little bit. And that poem is called "The Word Violence Must Be Stopped," and I think everyone can agree with
Mhm.
me on that. I cannot get up no morning without them starting off with a shooting or something. So I want you to just stop this word violence, eliminate it, and it's up to us to do it. Now, this poem comes, a message. It's in this book. This is my latest. It's called Poetry Classics. And all my best work is in here. And I had poems that I was able to call Nikki and say, Nikki, I'm going to read you this poem. And all the ones are in there, she said, read that for me again. This is one of them. Message. Children of the earth, the time has come for us to go forth and become fruitful in the sharing of our wisdom, giving back to our forecoming the knowledge of our experiences which we have collected by walking through closed and open doors. by walking inside weak and strong minds, by walking and touching cold and warm hearts, by walking down endless and dead-end alleys, by walking beside an inside self. Look at my eyes until you become comfortable with their rich, dark color of distance. And if you might, while also gazing, open your mind to its greatest capability. It is very possible that you will set free an extension of yourself. Please do not deny or fear this flow of positive energy, for it is only a blessing stored upon you from birth, from birth, from birth.
And that's how you end the podcast.
Message.
All right, David, I'm telling you, that's how you do it. That's how you do this. That's how you do this. That's the perfect way to end. I tell everybody, and the thing is, David, I think we can include the link to the video if that's possible.
Right.
In
the video is on my website. So if you put my website down,
and I see a note from our producer that yes, we can. So I want to make sure that people,
I
see Mike's got it. Mike's got it going on.
Mike said he got it.
He got it. So folks, when you're listening to the podcast, know that also that you can click on that link and you can watch the video as well. David, I tell you
to see that video, man. We got to stop this violence thing.
Absolutely.
Pretty soon we're not going to be able to go to high school graduations. We've had 3 incidents in high school graduations, even one in California where a guy got shot in the parking lot, getting ready with his cat and robe and getting ready to graduate, and he don't get to graduate.
This is very serious.
I'm getting ready to perform in Toledo in a couple of weeks, and my sister is saying, who lives in Detroit, we was coming down to see, but I don't know, because all this violence with the youth, and they got us scared, man. And we're gonna have to realize we work with the Father. I tell everybody, take your angels with you anytime you step out the house. Leave pride and jealousy in the closet where it belongs, and if necessary, change shirts often to keep your feelings off your sleeve.
All right. Okay. There we go. David, thank you for being on the podcast, man.
Thank you for allowing me to share myself. Just to and as
people
a musician,
check it out.
If people want to come see me perform, I play with the Motown Sounds of Touch. I'm their percussionist. We're going to be at Riverscape on Friday, July 31st from 7 to 9. It's a free concert. Rarely do you get a chance to see us for free. They're the #1 Motown tribute in the country. So come see us.
See, there are many ways.
I might even do some of my poetry too.
There you go. I love it. And we'll make sure people check it out. Whenever you see David's name, Matthew's name attached to it, you need to go. So thanks so much for being part of my podcast, brother. Thank you.
Me and my wife appreciate, and So Far Productions appreciate you giving us this opportunity.